The envelope arrived on my desk like a pristine white grenade, my mother's signature lavender perfume wafting up before I even touched it. Of course, she'd used the company's premium stationery for this, thick cream paper with that subtle metallic sheen she loves so much, the kind we reserve for our top-tier corporate clients. My hands shook as I sliced it open, though I already knew what was inside. The legal terminology hit like a slap. Cease and desist, intellectual property infringement, immediate termination of all unauthorized sales. I had to read it 3 times before the reality sank in. My mother was actually threatening to sue me over my Etsy shop. The same woman who'd hung my childhood drawings in her office was now calling my art derivative works that damaged the company's market position. The printer hummed in the background as I sat there, its chemical toner smell mixing with that damn lavender perfume until I felt sick. Through the glass walls of my cubicle, I could see Carter watching me from his ergonomic throne in operations, probably waiting to report back to my mother about my reaction. My phone buzzed, Chelsea calling. I let it go to voicemail. She'd been warning me for months that this could happen, ever since I'd opened the shop against my mother's wishes. "Your mom's not going to like the competition," she'd said, "even if it's just hand-painted cards and prints." The letter crinkled as I clenched my fists. Mother had signed it herself, right under her attorney's signature, Bianca Reynolds-esque. The same lawyer who'd handled my father's estate, the same one who'd helped my mother lock down every aspect of the company's creative output under ironclad contracts. I forced myself to breathe, to unclench my jaw before I cracked a tooth. Through the glass, I could see my reflection, perfect corporate dress code, not a hair out of place. The good daughter, the reliable employee, the artist who'd been slowly suffocating under fluorescent lights and focus group feedback for the past decade. My computer pinged with an incoming email. From Luke in the boardroom. "Heard about the letter. This isn't right. Can we talk?" I closed it without responding. Luke meant well, but he was still one of them. They all were, trapped in my mother's orbit like satellites reflecting her light. The phone buzzed again. Chelsea wasn't giving up. "I'm fine," I said when I finally answered. "Bullshit, I just saw the shop's been taken down. What happened?" "Mother happened." I lowered my voice, aware of Carter's hovering presence. "She sent lawyers after me, said I'm stealing company designs, but those are your original pieces." "Doesn't matter. The contract I signed when I started here gives them rights to anything similar to company products." I laughed, bitter and quiet. "Apparently that includes everything I create forever." "That's insane. Fight it." "With what money? She knows exactly what she's doing." I watched Carter finally return to his spreadsheets. This is her way of saying I need to focus on my real job, on her vision. "Screw her vision. You need to—" "I have to go," I cut her off as my mother's assistant appeared at my cube entrance. "Meeting time." I hung up and gathered my tablet, the cease-and-desist letter burning in my desk drawer. Mother was waiting in the conference room, no doubt ready to remind me about family loyalty and artistic direction and all the opportunities she'd given me. But as I stood, something caught my eye, an old storage box peeking out from under my desk, labeled high school art. I'd brought it in for inspiration months ago and forgotten about it. Inside were my original sketchbooks from when I was 16, back when Mother first started borrowing my designs for the company's new product lines. I pushed the box deeper under my desk with my foot, a plan already forming. Mother wanted to play hardball? Fine. But she'd forgotten one very important thing. I still had proof of exactly where her best-selling designs had really come from. The lavender scent followed me down the hall, but now it smelled less like a threat and more like opportunity. Sometimes the best revenge doesn't need lawyers. Sometimes it just needs the truth. The indie playlist I'd queued up wasn't helping. Florence, plus. The machine's defiant vocals only made the ache worse as I wrapped each paintbrush in paper, tucking them into their designated slots like fallen soldiers. My home studio, really just a converted breakfast nook, looked naked without the usual explosion of art supplies. You need to decide if you're an artist or a businesswoman, Mother had said in that conference room, her manicured nails tapping against the cease-and-desist letter. You can't be both. Not in this family. I cranked up the volume, letting the music drown out her voice in my head. The cardboard boxes from the liquor store still smelled faintly of wine, appropriate for what felt like a funeral. Each tube of paint made a soft thud as it landed. Cadmium yellow, cerulean blue, alizarin crimson, colors that had once meant freedom, now being entombed. My phone lit up with another text from Chelsea. Don't you dare give up. We'll figure something out. I left it unread. Chelsea couldn't understand what it was like growing up with Vivian Welch as a mother. How she could slice through dreams with the precision of a surgeon, all while smiling about how she only wanted what was best for you. The bubble wrap crackled as I gathered my ceramic palettes, still crusty with dried paint. I'd bought them at that art fair in Portland, back when I still thought I could maintain both worlds. Corporate drone by day, real artist by night. The memory tasted bitter now. Your little hobby shop is confusing our customers, Mother had continued, while Bianca nodded along. It dilutes the brand. Surely you understand that. A sharp edge of paper sliced my finger as I reached for another box. Perfect. Now I was literally bleeding for my art. The indie music swelled into something angry and percussive, matching my pulse. That's when my hand brushed against it. A sketchbook shoved behind my reference books, its cover thick with dust. The grit felt familiar against my fingers, a texture from another life. I pulled it out, knowing what I'd find inside. The pages were yellowed at the edges, but the designs were still crisp. 16-year-old me had been meticulous, dating each sketch, noting color combinations and material suggestions. Page after page of what would become Mother's breakthrough product line, the one that had transformed our family's modest gift shop into a corporate empire. Look what Mommy's marketing team came up with, she'd told relatives at Christmas that year, showing off the prototypes. I'd sat there silent, fork pushing food around my plate while she basked in their praise. My phone buzzed again. Luke, this time. Your mother's worried about you, says you missed the afternoon meeting. I snorted, flipping through more pages. Mother wasn't worried about me, she was worried about controlling me. The same way she'd controlled these designs, claiming them as corporate property the moment I'd started working here officially. A receipt fluttered out from between the pages. Art supplies I'd bought with babysitting money. The date matched the sketches exactly. My throat tightened as I remembered that summer, how proud I'd been to show Mother my ideas. How she'd smiled and hugged me and said we'd talk about them when the time was right. The music faded to something softer, melancholic. I sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by half-packed boxes and a decade of suppressed anger. The sketchbook felt heavy in my lap, weighted with possibility. Chelsea's words from lunch last week echoed back. You know what the difference is between justice and revenge? Documentation. My fingers traced the dated sketches, the detailed notes, the original receipt. Mother had built her empire on these designs, on my teenage dreams. And now she wanted to shut down even this small piece of artistic freedom I'd carved out for myself. I reached for my phone, ignoring Luke's message to pull up Chelsea's contact. She answered on the first ring. I need your help, I said, the sketchbook open beside me. Remember that startup lawyer you mentioned? The one who specializes in intellectual property? Finally, Chelsea replied. I could hear her smile. I'll send you her number right now. The last notes of the playlist faded to silence. I looked at my half-packed studio, at the evidence in my lap, and made a decision. Mother wanted me to choose between being an artist and a businesswoman? Fine, I'd show her exactly what kind of businesswoman I could be. The office coffee tasted like battery acid, but I barely noticed as I spread the sketchbook pages across my kitchen counter. Early morning light filtered through the blinds, casting stripes across designs I hadn't looked at in years. The familiar swirls and geometric patterns jumped out at me, accusing in their clarity. I pulled up the Welch Gifts catalog on my laptop, clicking through to our best sellers. There it was, the Infinity Collection, launched in 2014, Mother's crowning achievement. I zoomed in on the signature pattern, then looked back at my teenage sketches. The resemblance wasn't just close, it was identical. Holy shit, Chelsea breathed, leaning over my shoulder. She'd shown up at dawn with actually decent coffee, which sat forgotten next to my bitter office cup. These aren't just similar, she straight up copied them. Look at this one. I flipped to a page dated July 15th, the corners soft with age. The geometric pattern I'd created for a school art project now graced thousands of corporate gift boxes. The modern angles line. Mother said it was inspired by New York architecture. Chelsea pulled out her phone, snapping careful photos. And this? She pointed to a series of interconnected circles. The Eternal Links design won 3 industry awards. My laugh came out harsh. Mother gave a whole speech about how it represented corporate connectivity. The paper felt fragile under my fingers, smelling of old storage and broken trust. Each page revealed another theft, another lie. The coffee churned in my stomach as I recognized design after design, the wave pattern from our luxury stationery line, the abstract florals on our premium gift wrap, even the company's current logo, all born in this sketchbook. I can't believe she got away with this, Chelsea said, still documenting everything. Didn't anyone question where these designs came from? Carter did once. I remembered his confused look during that product launch. Mother told him I'd signed over all my student work when I joined the company. Made it sound like rough concepts she'd refined. But these aren't rough. Chelsea tapped the detailed color notes, the precise measurements. These are complete designs from when you were 16. My phone buzzed. Another message from Luke. Your mother's asking questions about your absence. What should I tell her? I ignored it, focusing instead on a particular sketch dated August 3rd. The pattern was complex, interlocking shapes that formed hidden hearts when you looked closely. Mother had used it for our Valentine's collection every year since 2015. I remember drawing this one, I said, tracing the lines. It was right after Dad died. Mother was worried about the company's future, so I stayed up all night creating something special for her. Something that showed her we'd be okay. Chelsea's hand squeezed my shoulder, and she turned it into a product line without crediting you. She turned everything into product lines. The bitterness of the office coffee lingered on my tongue. Every gift I gave her, every design I created trying to make her proud, she saw them all as corporate assets. My phone buzzed again. Carter this time. Meeting in 30. Your mother wants to discuss the holiday collection. The holiday collection, I muttered, flipping to the back of the sketchbook. You mean these snowflake patterns I drew while waiting in the hospital during Dad's last Christmas? Chelsea set down her phone, all the evidence documented. So what's the plan? The lawyer I mentioned, Andrea, she's ready to meet whenever you are. I stared at the designs spread before me, at the laptop showing their commercial versions. Years of stolen creativity, of suppressed attribution, of carefully rewritten history. Mother hadn't just taken my art, she'd taken my story, my legacy, my voice. First, I said, closing the sketchbook carefully, I'm going to that meeting. Mother wants to discuss holiday designs? Fine. Let's discuss them. And then I picked up my phone, typing a quick response to Andrea. Need to meet ASAP. Have evidence of extensive design theft. Then we're going to have a conversation about intellectual property rights. I gathered the sketchbook and my laptop, sliding them into my bag. And about how karma doesn't need lavender perfume to make its point. Chelsea grinned, fierce and proud. Want company for the meeting? I can work from your office today. Please. I shouldered my bag, leaving the bitter coffee behind. Someone should be there to witness the beginning of the end. You should have seen her face when I dropped the original snowflake sketches on the conference table. I grabbed another spring roll, the spicy sauce burning my already raw nerves, like she'd seen a ghost. Chelsea and I were sprawled across my living room floor, surrounded by empty takeout containers and legal documents. The meeting had gone exactly as expected, Mother deflecting, Bianca intervening, Carter studiously examining his shoes. Did she deny it? Chelsea asked, scrolling through something on her tablet. Worse, she said she was proud that my juvenile attempts had inspired such successful products. The sauce scorched my tongue, matching my anger. Then she reminded everyone about the corporate ownership clause in my contract, which doesn't apply to work created before you were employed. Chelsea wiped her fingers and reached for her laptop. But we need more than just the sketchbook. We need digital proof, documentation of when these designs first appeared. I pushed aside a container of drunken noodles. The company scrubbed everything when they rebranded. Mother made sure of that. Maybe not everything. Chelsea's eyes lit up with that look she got when solving coding problems. What about the Wayback Machine, internet archives, your old social media? I never posted the designs online. Mother always said. My phone buzzed, interrupting. A news alert, then another, and another. Chelsea's phone started pinging too. What the hell? I opened the first link, nearly dropping my phone. There, in grainy street view imagery, was someone who looked exactly like me, digging in my front yard at night. The timestamp said 3 months ago. That's impossible, I whispered. It's going viral, Chelsea said, her fingers flying across her keyboard. Some local news site picked it up. They're speculating about what you buried. My hands shook as I scrolled through comments. People were already connecting it to Mother's company, suggesting corporate espionage, wondering what documents I might have hidden. This is insane. I wasn't even home that night. I was at your startup launch party. I know that, but... Chelsea paused, something shifting in her expression. Wait, this could actually help us. Help us? People think I'm burying evidence. Exactly. She set her laptop aside, leaning forward. Your mother's whole defense relies on maintaining perfect corporate control. What happens if people start questioning that control? I stared at the image again. The figure did look remarkably like me, down to my favorite oversized sweater. You want to use this? Not directly. Chelsea grabbed her notebook, the one she used for startup strategies. But if people are already suspicious about corporate secrets, we could leak the real story, I finished, catching her drift, about the stolen designs. With documentation, she tapped her tablet. I've already found archived photos of your high school art show. The dates match your sketchbook perfectly. Another news alert popped up. Someone named Giselle Whitney, a rival gift company executive, was already commenting about concerning patterns of behavior at Welch Gifts. Mother will try to bury this, I said, but Chelsea was already shaking her head. She can't, not without drawing more attention. And the harder she tries, the more suspicious it looks. I pushed aside the burning sensation of the sauce, a different kind of heat building. But what about the street view thing? Won't I look guilty? You have alibis, timestamps, dozens of witnesses from my launch party. Chelsea grinned. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense. Let them dig. They'll only find your mother's secrets, not yours. My phone buzzed again. Luke. Have you seen the news? Your mother's calling an emergency board meeting tomorrow. I showed Chelsea the message. It's starting already. Good. She pulled up her contact list. I know some tech journalists who'd love to hear about a family-owned company's secret design history, especially with all this new attention. The spicy sauce had left my lips tingling, but now it felt like possibility rather than pain. Mother always said perception was everything in business. Then let's change some perceptions. Chelsea started typing. By the time we're done, that street view image won't be the most interesting thing people find when they go digging. I looked at the viral photo again, at this supposed version of me unearthing secrets in the dark. Mother had spent years burying the truth about my designs, about her perfect corporate narrative. Maybe it was time for some things to come to light. Make the calls, I told Chelsea, reaching for my sketchbook. Let's show them what really lies beneath. The street view image burned into my retinas as I zoomed in again, the pixels breaking down into meaningless squares of oversaturated color. 3 hours of staring at my laptop screen had given me a headache, but I couldn't stop analyzing every detail. Look at the timestamp, I told Chelsea through my phone's speaker. 8:47 p.m., October 12th. I was definitely at your party until midnight. We have photos to prove it, she confirmed. But that's not what's interesting. Look at the garden bed in the background. I squinted. The image quality was terrible, all blown out whites and artificial shadows. What about it? Those dead mums. Remember when you replaced them? The memory clicked. Mid-October, I was repotting. My voice trailed off as understanding hit. Someone took footage of me gardening and made it look suspicious. Bingo. And I'll give you one guess who benefits most from this story. Giselle Whitney. The name tasted sour. Her company had been trying to poach our clients for months. She was the first to comment on the story. My inbox pinged. Another anonymous comment on the news article. What's she hiding? First the cease and desist against her own art shop, now this. The nausea rose again as I scrolled through the responses. Everyone had a theory. Everyone thought they knew the truth. The irony would be funny if it wasn't so infuriating. They were all searching for buried secrets, just not the right ones. Have you seen the latest? Chelsea asked. Giselle's giving interviews now, hinting at troubling patterns in your family's company. I pulled up the video, my stomach churning at Giselle's perfectly practiced concern. We just want transparency in the industry, she was saying. When we see unusual behavior from competitors, turn it off, I snapped, but not before catching her final soundbite. Sometimes the most damaging secrets are hidden in plain sight. The bile rose in my throat. She had no idea how right she was, just not in the way she thought. I minimized the video, pulling up my email instead. 3 messages from Mother, still unread. 2 from Luke about the board meeting. 1 from Bianca marked, urgent legal response required. You okay? Chelsea's voice was soft with worry. No. I opened my sketchbook, now carefully documented and backed up. But I think I know what to do next. Jasmine, they want to talk about buried secrets? Fine, let's talk about them. My fingers flew across the keyboard, composing a new email. But Giselle started this game without realizing something important. What's that? Blackmail works both ways. I attached the first scan, my original snowflake design, dated and documented. If she wants to play dirty, she should know that mud sticks to everyone. Chelsea was quiet for a moment. You're going to threaten her? Not threaten. Inform. I added another attachment, a photo from my high school art show, the winning designs clearly displayed. She's so concerned about corporate transparency, I'll give her something real to investigate. She'll run straight to your mother. Counting on it. The nausea was fading, replaced by cold certainty. Mother needs to understand she's not the only one who can control the narrative. I finished the email, addressing it to Giselle's private account, the one Chelsea had tracked down through her tech connections. The message was simple. My original designs, proof of their theft, and a single question. Who do you think the media will believe? The artist whose work was stolen, or the executives who stole it? This is risky, Chelsea warned. If it backfires, look at the comments again, I said, hovering over the send button. Everyone's already convinced I buried something incriminating. Might as well give them a real scandal to dig up. My phone buzzed. Luke texting, emergency board meeting moved up to tomorrow morning. Your mother's worried about stock prices. I smiled, hitting send on the email to Giselle. Perfect timing. What now? Chelsea asked. Now we wait. I closed the laptop, the pixelated street view image finally fading from my vision. Giselle has until morning to decide. Does she want to be known as the whistleblower who exposed corporate design theft, or the executive who helped cover it up? The nausea was completely gone now, replaced by something that felt almost like peace. Let them keep searching my garden for buried secrets. The real evidence had been sitting in plain sight all along, just waiting for the right moment to bloom. The conference room felt like an operating theater, all gleaming surfaces and antiseptic air, the kind of sterile that makes you afraid to breathe too deeply. Mother sat at the head of the table, perfectly poised despite the early hour. Bianca flanked her left, legal papers arranged in precise stacks. Luke hovered near the window, his reflection fractured across the city skyline. I took my usual seat, the leather chair still stiff after all these years. My laptop and the old sketchbook sat before me like weapons on an altar. Jasmine. Mother's voice carried that special tone, the one that mixed disappointment with artificial concern. I assume you know why we're here. The street view photo. I kept my voice steady, watching her reaction. It's causing quite a stir. It's causing damage, Bianca cut in, sliding forward a printout of yesterday's stock prices, red arrows pointed downward. The implications alone are concerning, Mother finished. But if you explain what really happened that night, we can get ahead of this narrative. The air conditioning hummed, carrying the sour scent of old coffee from someone's forgotten mug. Luke shifted uncomfortably, his shoes squeaking against the polished floor. You want the truth? I opened my laptop, pulling up the images metadata Chelsea had extracted. Here it is. I was at a startup launch party that night. Dozens of witnesses, time-stamped photos, social media posts. The whole story is fake. Mother's perfect posture slipped just slightly. Then why didn't you say something immediately? Because it made me curious. I touched the sketchbook's worn cover. About how easily false narratives can spread. About what people choose to believe. If you have proof of your whereabouts, Bianca said, reaching for the metadata, we can issue a statement. That won't be necessary. I pushed the sketchbook forward instead. Because we're not here to discuss what I didn't bury. We're here to discuss what you did. The conference room's chill deepened. Mother's fingers twitched. The smallest tell, one most people would miss. I don't understand. Let me help you remember. I opened the sketchbook to the first flagged page. Valentine's Collection 2015. The interlocking hearts design that won 3 industry awards. The one you claimed was inspired by architectural elements in Paris. Luke moved closer, peering at the teenage sketches. These are mine, from when I was 16. I turned another page. Just like the Infinity Collection, and the Modern Angles line, and every other major design that built this company. Mother's laugh was practiced, perfect, hollow. Darling, we've been through this. Any student work you created was produced years before I signed any contracts. I met her eyes across the sterile table, before you legally owned anything I made. Bianca was already flipping through documents, but I saw the concern in her frown. Mother must have seen it too, because her next words carried an edge of steel. You're upset about the art shop. I understand. But this petty revenge isn't petty at all. I pulled up the email from Giselle on my laptop. She's willing to go public with everything, unless... Unless? Mother's voice was barely a whisper. Unless we do it first, on our terms. I laid out the proposal Chelsea and I had prepared. Full creative credit for all past designs, a seat on the board, and complete creative control of my own subsidiary line. The air conditioning clicked off, leaving us in sudden silence. Luke was staring at the sketchbook pages, recognition dawning in his eyes. Bianca's legal papers lay forgotten. You would damage this company? Mother's words dripped acid. Your own family's legacy? No, Mother. I'm reclaiming my legacy. I stood, gathering my evidence. You have until this afternoon to decide. Either we announce the truth together, celebrating the company's return to its artistic roots, or Giselle breaks the story her way. And trust me, her version won't be kind. I walked to the door, the disinfectant smell suddenly less threatening. Oh, and about that viral photo? Funny how people searching for buried secrets sometimes find exactly what they're looking for, just not where they expected to find it. The last thing I saw as I left was Mother's reflection in the window. Small, sharp, and finally afraid. The sterile air had shifted, carrying something new beneath the coffee and cleaning products. It smelled like victory. The speakerphone crackled with static as Mother's voice filled the room. This is absurd. I won't be blackmailed by my own daughter. I placed the document on her desk, sliding it across the polished surface. It's not blackmail, Mother. It's an invoice. Chelsea had helped me prepare it. Every stolen design, every product line, every award-winning collection, market values, revenue streams, licensing fees, all meticulously calculated and itemized. The final figure made even Bianca's eyes widen. $12,400,000, I read aloud, plus interest. The static popped again. Mother was calling in from her emergency trip to London, running away just like always. But this time, she couldn't escape. You can't possibly expect... Actually, I can. I pulled up the presentation on the boardroom screen. The Valentine's collection alone generated $8 million in revenue, the Infinity line, $15 million, Modern Angles, $23 million. Each slide showed my original sketches alongside their commercial versions. And that's just domestic sales. Luke leaned forward, studying the numbers. These figures are accurate. Of course they're accurate. I clicked to the next slide. I had 10 years of corporate reports to work from. 10 years of watching my art make this company rich. Enough! Mother's voice cracked through the speaker. I gave you everything. A career. A future. You gave me a cage. The words tasted like freedom. And then you stole everything I created inside it. Bianca cleared her throat. Perhaps we could discuss a reasonable settlement. Oh, we're past that. I pulled up the email from Giselle. Your friend from Whitney Designs is very interested in this story, especially after I showed her proof that her company doctored that Street View image. The static couldn't hide Mother's sharp intake of breath. You're lying. Chelsea traced the metadata. The original photo was manipulated using software registered to Whitney's design department. I smiled. Giselle's board won't like that. Neither will her shareholders. You would destroy 2 companies out of spite? No, Mother. I would expose the truth out of justice. The air felt electric, charged with decades of suppressed rage. You have 1 hour to agree to my terms. Full creative credit, board seat, subsidiary line, plus financial compensation for all past theft. Or what? The spite in her voice was familiar, almost comforting. Or I hold a press conference, show everyone how you built your empire by stealing designs from your teenage daughter, how you threatened to sue me for daring to make my own art, how you collaborated with competitors to create fake scandals. Each point landed like a hammer blow. How's that for spite? Luke was already on his phone, probably checking stock futures. Bianca's legal papers lay forgotten, useless against the weight of truth. Everything I did, Mother hissed through the static. I did for this family. No, you did it for yourself. I loaded the final slide, my father's last photo taken in his hospital room. I was sketching those damned snowflakes while he died. You did it because controlling my art meant controlling me. The silence stretched, broken only by electronic crackle and the soft whir of the projector. Finally, Luke spoke. Vivienne, the board will back Jasmine on this. The evidence is overwhelming. The press would crucify us, Bianca added quietly, especially now, with all eyes already watching. I waited, remembering every dismissed dream, every stolen design, every moment of creative suffocation. The invoice sat between us like a verdict. Fine, Mother's voice was ice. Have Bianca draw up the papers. But remember something, Jasmine. You're becoming exactly what you claim to hate. No, Mother. I gathered my evidence, my victory, my vindication. I'm becoming what you always feared, an artist who knows her worth. The speakerphone went dead, leaving us in ringing silence. Luke touched my shoulder as he passed. Well played. It's not a game, I said, but we both knew that wasn't quite true. It had always been a game. I'd just finally learned how to win. I left the invoice on Mother's desk, 10 years of stolen life itemized in clean black and white. The last line wasn't a number, but a quote from her own cease-and-desist letter. The value of intellectual property cannot be understated. For once, Mother and I agreed on something. The studio windows faced east, catching the morning light just right. I breathed in deeply, turpentine, fresh paint, and possibility. No more fluorescent lights, no more focus groups, no more corporate feedback loops. Just pure, unfiltered creativity. Chelsea perched on a paint-splattered stool, watching me unpack. Have you seen the press release? Didn't need to. I carefully placed my old sketchbook on the shelf of honor, leather worn smooth by time and triumph. Mother's PR team knows how to spin things. Welch Gifts celebrates artistic legacy or something equally diplomatic. Close. Mother-daughter design dynasty reveals creative collaboration. Chelsea snorted. They made it sound downright heartwarming. I stepped back to survey my space. The exposed brick walls displayed my original sketches, properly framed, properly credited. Below them, blank canvases waited like promises. The settlement money had bought this freedom, but the victory wasn't about the money. Luke called, Chelsea said, scrolling through her phone. The board approved your subsidiary launch. You can start production whenever you're ready. My fingers traced the sketchbook spine, remembering the teenage girl who'd filled those pages with dreams. No rush. I want to do this right. The morning light caught the wet paint on my first new piece. Abstract swirls in colors Mother would never have approved. The scent of oils and acrylics mixed with coffee from the shop downstairs, so different from the sterile corporate environment I'd left behind. Speaking of doing things right, Chelsea pulled up an email. Giselle Whitney's resignation just hit the news. Apparently, her board didn't appreciate the Street View manipulation scandal. Karma's funny that way. I opened a fresh tube of cadmium yellow, the color bright and honest. Though Mother probably thinks the same about me. You gave her a choice, more than she ever gave me. The paint flowed onto my palette, pure and uncompromised. Did you know she hasn't called once since the settlement? Chelsea set down her phone. Are you okay with that? I considered the question as I mixed colors, creating shades that would never appear in a corporate catalog. The truth was complicated, like all the best art. I'm okay with who I am now, I finally said. The rest doesn't matter. The studio door chimed, my first client arriving for a consultation, not a corporate account or bulk order, but someone seeking original art, real art, my art. That's my cue to leave, Chelsea said, gathering her things. Dinner later? We should celebrate the studio opening properly. Absolutely. I hugged her tight, paint-stained fingers and all. Thank you for everything. After she left, I took a moment to center myself. The sketchbook caught my eye again, battle-scarred but unbowed like me. I opened it one last time, inhaling the familiar scent of graphite and old paper. The teenage sketches looked different now, freed from corporate constraints and properly credited at last. The client's footsteps echoed on the hardwood floors. I closed the sketchbook gently, placing it back on its shelf. Its job was done, preserving evidence, protecting truth, proving worth. Now it could rest while I created something new. Welcome to the studio, I said, turning to greet my visitor. The morning light streamed in, catching the fresh paint on my latest piece. No more corporate gift wrap patterns or focus grouped designs. Just pure artistic vision, finally unchained. I love the energy in here, the client said, gazing around. Everything feels so authentic. I smiled, reaching for a clean canvas. The smell of turpentine and possibility filled my lungs, sharp and sweet and real. That's exactly what I was going for. Mother's voice echoed faintly in my memory. You need to decide if you're an artist or a businesswoman. She'd been wrong about that, like so many things. I could be both, on my own terms, in my own space, with my own name proudly displayed on every creation. I picked up my brush, its weight familiar and right in my hand. The blank canvas waited, full of potential. No more borrowed dreams or stolen designs, no more corporate constraints or family expectations. Just art, pure and true, finally set free. The morning light caught the wet paint, making it gleam like victory.